Hello viewers and welcome to this very special edition of Economics 101. Yes indeed, this comes on the backdrop of a very special time that we are in. We are hot on the heels of the new cabinet. The cabinet entrusted with the greatest submissions of restoring Zimbabwe to its rightful place amongst nations. And now my name is Kurtley Gwindi, and in studio today at Pocket I'm joined by a once again special guest, also a man who's no stranger to the economics and budgetary issues, and this is the past chairman of the Finance Budget Portfolio Committee, Dr. Matthew Nyashanu, a seasoned economist as well as entrepreneur. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Once again, we say you are very special to us because we are speaking on a background of perhaps knowledge you have with regards to the new cabinet, as well as many of the things that have been happening and taking place in our nation. But let's just zero in into the first issue we would like to tackle, which is you being the past chairman of the Finance, Budget and Portfolio Committee. Now, what can you say were the major strides as well as achievements that you have managed to engulf during your tenure?
I can break down the work of the Committee of Parliament on Budget into four parts. One being lawmaking process, the second one being the representative role, the third one being the oversight role, and I want to come up with the fourth one, which is the passing of the budget. And I think on the lawmaking process, the committee did a lot of extensive work. Citizens may be aware that in 2015, Justice George Smith was tasked to look into the affairs of the pensions industry,
yes,
and the insurance industry as well. He came up with a set of recommendations, which recommendations, the Minister of Finance together with the Insurance and Pensions Commission were supposed to be working on. And they did come up with about three sets of bills.
Okay.
One is the Providence, the Pensions and Providence bill. The other one was the Insurance bill. The third one was the Insurance and Pensions Commission bill. Mm-hmm. We did extensive work on these three bills. We have since passed the Pensions and Providence Fund bill, which is now law. We have done all the necessary work as a committee,
yes,
on the Insurance bill and the Insurance and Pensions Commission bill. Work is at an advanced stage, and I'm sure during the course of the 10th Parliament, these two other bills will be passed.
Absolutely.
And I believe Parliament, the Committee on Budget, has done a lot on the lawmaking process. We have also been able to initiate some reforms on the Public Finance Management Act. We realized that there were deficiencies, there were gaps in the Public Finance Management Act, and we made recommendations to the minister, and the minister came up with the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, mm-hmm, which is also at an advanced stage in Parliament. The committee has done, engagements with citizens. The committee has also come up with a very comprehensive report, which report has already been presented before Parliament. It's in debate. It's being debated as we speak. It has gone through the debating process. It's at a stage where it's about to be concluded, and this is the work of the Budget Committee.
Absolutely.
In the last 5 years, in as far as the lawmaking process is concerned. In as
All
far
right.
as the oversight process is concerned, the committee has also been engaging the ministry and all agencies that falls under the ministry, which involves ZIMRA, the RBZ, the Deposit Protection Corporation, the IPEC, which is the Insurance and Pensions Commission. We have worked together on various other issues that relate to the welfare of citizens.
Absolutely, and thank you so much. Two things, Doctor. First and foremost, as we get into the time of, I think we called it the second season of the second dispensation, what can you say has been the take home with regards to with regards to obviously your portfolio, and at a time where we have had an depreciation of our local currency, and how has that protected us? Perhaps we're talking about the Deposit Protection Scheme, we're talking about IPEC, we're talking about ZIMRA, all these engagements and perhaps all these oversights that you are looking at, these places you've mentioned. How best can you say that this appreciation and depreciation of our local currency has affected some of the works that you have been involved in? And my second question would be, there has been continuous repetition within your report that we are at an advanced stage. What is the typical advancement time as well as a turnover time for some of these bills and laws to actually become policy? Perhaps my second question first.
Yes, the turnover time, I cannot really state that it takes 1 month or 2 months because there are so many processes involved. The minister coming up with a bill, presenting it to Parliament, and there are processes within Parliament that have to take place before the committee starts engaging citizens, because we have to elicit the views of citizens as well to hear what they think about a particular provision in a bill. So we have to do it extensively to involve every citizen in terms of Section 141 of our Constitution, that we have to consult citizens when it comes to lawmaking process.
And does that not affect the results within your tenure? Are you not marked according to some of the deliverables after the 5 years?
What is important is whether the committee has done its part.
Okay.
There are also issues to do with correction of mistakes on drafting.
Okay.
That exercise does not fall under our purview. It means it has to go back to the Attorney General to look at the bill and make corrections.
Okay.
So there are certain bills that have been affected that way. But in terms of the work of the committee, our work is to involve citizens, engage citizens, and come up with a report. And all that process has been done in as far as the bills that came before us. And even the petitions that also came before us. We have one petition that sought to establish, pension values for Zisco Steel. There's another petition that also came to beseech Parliament to come up with a position in as far as the widening inequalities within society are concerned.
Oh, yes.
We have engaged the citizens, we have engaged the parties, we have come up with reports, and the reports are read in Parliament.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, and let's look at perhaps the way the rate, the exchange rate, that is the US dollar to the Zimbabwe dollar, the ZWR as some may call it. How has that affected your entire tenure? And perhaps let's just talk about, this is in particular attention to the oversight part that you play as a committee. How best can you say you have managed to kind of galvanize as well as protect some of the interests? Like you said, you have the interests of the people at heart. How best have you done that as a committee in the past 5 years?
As a committee, we have played the role of balancing citizens' expectations.
Yes.
And, the sensitivities that are around the financial sector. It is an area that you don't need to switch on the panic mode unnecessarily. We have been we have taken a stance as a committee to ensure that we call the minister and engage the minister whenever it's absolutely necessary to hear his stance on a certain position. Yes, of course, there have been fluctuations in as far as our currency is concerned, but it has not only been particular to our country.
Yes.
There are quite a number of factors that have been affecting our currency. So has the same factors been affecting other currencies in other jurisdictions as well.
Yes.
You would find there are also issues of geopolitical tensions that have affected currencies across the globe. There are also issues to do with natural disasters, like our Cyclone Idai and our COVID-19. There are also issues to do with particular to our country has been the exchange rate induced inflation, where people are now trying to use the exchange rate for their prices, for their pricing models.
Okay, absolutely, and thank you so much. I think with introspection, we have managed to look at some of the works that the Parliamentary Finance Budget Portfolio Committee have been doing. And yes, we are sitting with the chairman, Dr. Matthew Nyashanu. My name is Kurtley Gwindi. This is Economics 101. Stay tuned. There, viewers, you are still with us here on ZBC TV, where you are watching an exclusive program, Economics 101, a very special segment as we come together now and speak much to do with the Finance Budget and Portfolio Committee and the works and perhaps the blessings that the chairman, who is sitting with us, who is Dr. Matthew Nyashanu, who is speaking to us here live on a television, to do with some of the messages that you have to the incoming committee. Now, what do you think they should emulate from the works as you are chairman, and what would be your advice to them?
I would expect the incoming committee to look at where we left and pick it up from there and ensure that the bills that are before Parliament that haven't been completed in terms of ensuring that they are enacted into law, they have to make sure that they expeditiously work on those. Even the reports that have to be presented in the House, I expect the incoming chair to take over and also present in the House so that debate can ensue and ensure that they are finalized.
Okay, absolutely. And what do you think some of the major pointers that the new administration should look into for progression of the local economy? This is from a political standpoint as well as economic standpoint, as you feel both, as you wear both those hats.
Our government has done a lot, and I think going forward, what we need to do is to be looking at those sectors of our economy which have not been, which have been showing some kind of contraction. And I think we need to consolidate, particularly in the agricultural sector.
If you don't mind me asking, which are these sectors?
Yes.
Can we list them all? Because Zimbabweans tend, well, perhaps the everyday Zimbabwean may not know where to engage in business, perhaps from an entrepreneurial level. Someone who has an insight with regards to where dividends are being drawn, like yourself, would want to obviously tell our nation where we stand with regards to which sectors can actually grow the everyday entrepreneur watching us from home today.
I'm passionate about the agricultural sector.
Yes.
And I believe that we can do more in the agricultural sector by funding the agricultural value chains and ensure that we also restore agro-processing in the agricultural sector. And I think that we will have quick benefits in that area. The mining sector has actually done well because I think as at last year they had achieved about 10% growth. They are actually poised to achieve 10.4% this year. And I think that's a safe area. We would want to look sector by sector and see how best we can improve. But so far, so good.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
So far, so good, as you have heard. We do have a new dispensation of cabinet ministers, and perhaps we perhaps I think because we are speaking about sector by sector, we do have individuals, a very, very big backlash on social media for many, you know, whether there is qualification vis-a-vis perhaps an appreciation of the portfolio that someone has been given. Now, how does it usually work? Perhaps we are speaking to someone who has a background of some of these things. How does it usually work when one is allocated into a ministerial post and perhaps, like we said, many are questioning the qualification, and we would perhaps want to know how best will one tackle if in that case someone is qualified in agriculture and is getting, for example, an infrastructural position.
I don't see any problem with appointments at all,
Yes.
because once appointed, then the minister does not work alone. He works with a team in the ministry.
Yes.
And also he will be getting guidance from technocrats around him. And I don't find that causing any problem. What is important for the minister is to be able to advance the policy of a given ministry.
Okay. And when we talk about policies, Doctor, what then becomes of some of the policies that were left behind by predecessors like yourself and successors who then come and perhaps just stop that entire process or progress? Is that something that can happen, or is that something that will happen, or is that something that has happened?
I don't think there will be a gap. That's what I want to believe, because obviously I was not working alone. I was actually working with the Secretariat of Parliament. They know where we left.
Are there individuals who are within the structures that are also just going to continue the excellence, or who are also going to protect some of the things that you put? Or is it going to be, we know that the cabinet was reshuffled, but a portfolio committee is reshuffled, a permanent secretary is reshuffled?
Well, that is dependent on our leadership.
Okay.
But I don't find that causing any problem. Okay. Because I am saying within each portfolio committee there is Secretariat of Parliament, okay, which is able to guide the incoming chairperson, okay, so that work of Parliament can move smoothly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And with the new cabinet, Doc, I think we are looking at a time where we're very much excited. What can you say with regards to representation, one, of youth and of women within some of the structures we've seen being appointed by our president?
I'm happy that there is a youth from every province, which is in line with our new constitution.
Absolutely.
And I think women are also equally represented, because remember there are 60 women rep who comes into Parliament to represent, the organ of women. And I think in isolated, constituencies, we also have women, constituency MPs. Absolutely. So I think, yes, we have an aspiration of achieving a 50-50 balance as a nation in terms of our constitution, but I think it is an aspiration, yes, which means we realize it as we go. Yeah.
All right, absolutely. And as we wind up our second segment, perhaps you can just take us through some of the processes that are gone through, perhaps when selecting this new dispensation of cabinet ministers, and how the reshuffle actually happens, because many do not know. Many of our viewers are also curious to know how they can also get perhaps appointed by our leadership.
I hear your question.
Yes.
But I am not privy to appreciate how our leadership really do it. It is up. You remember the appointment of ministers, the appointment of this senior leadership, yes, is a prerogative of our president. So I may not be qualified. Absolutely. To comment on that. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Doc. Yes.
And you are very qualified to be speaking about all things budget, finance, and we are speaking to the chairman here, the former chairman, who is just stepped down his reins from, that is the Finance, Budget and the Portfolio Committee in the Ministry of Finance. And yes, we are speaking to Dr. Matthew Nyashanu. This is Economics 101. Please stay tuned. Viewers, thank you so much for staying with us, and we thank you for keeping us in your homes here on a ZBC TV. Now, this is your premium economic show, Economics 101, that takes a look into introspection of all things to do with the Zimbabwean gross domestic product as we track down Vision 2030, according to our leader and President Emmerson Mnangagwa. And as we go forward, we are looking at all things to do with the Economic and Finance Budget Portfolio Committee, and we are speaking to the past chairman who was dealing with these issues, Dr. Matthew Nyashanu. And when you look into the economic issues, Doc, can you say that the private sector is fully participating, and what are the notable achievements in the public eye to a layman?
The private sector is critical for sustainable development in any economy. And they play a very critical role in terms of raising funding for development. And our private sector has been doing quite well in difficult times. And as you are aware that the private sector employs quite a number of our people, and they are also able to impart skills to those people. Much of the work they do, which is not really done by government, that of training our people. But I think there is scope for the private sector to also participate, particularly in areas of infrastructure, in terms of in the medical field, where private sector would partner government to ensure that we have good health facilities across the country. Government alone cannot complete this work. I think we need private sector participation in the health sector. We also need private sector participation in the education sector. Yes. We also need private sector participation in the agricultural sector.
Yes. As a big fan of agriculture as well.
I am passionate about agriculture.
All right, absolutely. Yes. And Doc, we are looking at private sector participation in the education sector. I just want to zero in on that for just a moment, where we are at a point where there's much anticipation for education to go forward, especially with regards to soft skills and motor skills. But we are also at a point where there's also an appreciation, or rather an incline with regards to school fees, even for university students who go to public universities. And some of these families or some of these individuals are not able to afford. And we are now also at a point where the private universities are also not necessarily friendly with regards to their fees. How best have we salvaged that with regards to some of these budgetary issues? Is there enough that you are allocating or that you have allocated to kind of subsidize some of these fees?
Government has taken a very clear position in as far as education is concerned. The education sector has always been prioritized by the budget to ensure that every child gets education. But I also want to believe that while government is playing a role, I think as parents we also need to take our role. But I also believe that within our society there are those of the vulnerable society that government should naturally look at.
Absolutely.
And try to cushion.
I would just like to cite a headline. This was about 5 years ago, during the time of the previous election that we held here in Zimbabwe, where there was a headline, according to the Herald, that said, "Free education for all." What then became of that? And we are still speaking at a time where there's actually an incline with regards to fees, and more, especially with regards to this rate, there is now more difficulty in paying even in the RTGS amount, and now there is actually pegging in USD amounts.
I hear you, but if you look at the budget itself in terms of its implementation, the education budget itself, the government is doing a lot, is contributing a lot, but because of the competing needs, you may find that it may not be enough. But there's a great commitment on the part of government in ensuring that every child goes to school.
Okay, absolutely, and a great commitment indeed. And we also want to commend your commitment to serving our nation for the past 10 years. And we do know it's just not on the background of being in the finance budget and as well as a portfolio committee, but also serving in your own home area. And we do appreciate. What's next for Dr. Nyashanu?
I want to take this opportunity to thank the leadership of Parliament for having afforded me this opportunity to chair a very critical, committee of Parliament at a critical time, at trying times. And I also want to thank the leadership of my party, the party's NPF, that nominated me to this position. Oh, yes. I learned a lot.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nyashanu there. And this indeed has been a very special episode of Economics 101, where we track Vision 2030 as well as track the progress of our gross domestic product here in Zimbabwe. We were having a conversation as Zimbabwe comes hot on the heels of a brand new cabinet. And this is the cabinet that is entrusted with the greatest submissions of restoring Zimbabwe to its rightful place amongst many nations. These were one of the individuals who got Zimbabwe to where it is, and we look forward and say all the best. Makorokoto Amhlope. Congratulations to all those who have been instated and who are in a critical position of shaping our nation. And from me, Curtly Gwendi, as well as the crew behind the scenes, it is a very good day, pleasant viewing, and God bless Zimbabwe.
ZBC News, the real African voice.